So for a while I was curious, I would say morbid curiosity, but I was curious to see how the stars would perform in the new region. And I will start with the Cormorant Navy. Yes, I'll be using a low tier ship this time around, and I'm very curious to see how a low tier ship like this one. Now, today I'll be doing a brawling build, and later, hopefully in the same day, I will upload a kite build. Now, right from the start, I can definitely tell you that I do like the kite build a bit more, and it does seem like the long range approach does work better with these low tier ships. But the Cormorant Navy is quite cheap and you can easily afford one of these ships. They're honestly not expensive at all. Now the build, as I mentioned before, this is going to be a close range build, uses blasters. Now this ship does have a bonus on range, and the blasters have 4.49 kilometer optimal, which is decent. One scrambler and a web accompanied by one small Nosferatu. I actually thought to do a medium booster plus medium Nosferatu setup, but the ship did not have enough power to do that, so I kind of gave up on that idea. I could technically make that build, but it would just cost too much. And for the rigs, I have some capacitor control circuits, a core defense of Solifer, and a cheap 3P60 integration, just for a test to see how would a cheap integration work on a ship like this. And for the nanocore, I have the illusionary ghost. Now, as I usually do, I have this core only for the looks. I really love how the illusionary ghost looks, and I only did give the ship plus 24% extra shield. No extra damage, no upgrades, nothing. It's just a nice looking core with some extra shield. And for the implants, you have two options. You have the thermal circulation and the high power coil. I'll be using the high power coil, although the implant can make a difference, but in the end of the day, it's probably not going to be much of a problem. If you don't have the implant, then you can get the implant by paying a carry service, or you can buy the implant from the markets. That can be quite the investment, but in the end it is worth it. And yeah, I'm not much of a implant fan at the moment. I would still nerf all of them, but that's just me. So, small expedition loaded into the Cormorant, and let me undock to jump in the Kalevala expense, and we will see how this thing will work. Now the beauty in the Kalevala expense is the fact that you can use any ship that you like, basically, as long as you have a good idea and a good build. It should work. I've been told that a kite build was better, and I can actually confirm now that I do prefer the kite build over this one. Not only is it cheaper, but it seems to clear better. But more on that when I do the kite setup. 17,000 hit points. Well, the shield stats don't look much promising. I've had better resistance on the succubus, but again, that's the succubus, a faction frigate with a bonus on shield. And of course, the succubus does have more rig slots. So the chip integration, while I would say it's not necessary, I have the integration because these navies do lack one rig slot, and that's basically the only reason why I have a integration, to basically compensate for the lack of a third rig slot. Alright, well, here we are. That's a beautiful red giant over there. Yeah, this was awesome. Some wallpaper material, that's some wallpaper material right there. Have the stars look this good always. I haven't noticed that at all. Anyway, let me fast forward and let's go to a small anomaly. Now, with this type of ship and with this type of build, if you are going in solo, I wouldn't run a Centrum because the Centrum is just not really suitable for a solo ship like this. If you are in a fleet, then yeah, it will be smooth sailing. But for solo, I recommend that you go from anomaly to anomaly. The classic anomalies, they are already paying really well. Now, the thing that I don't really like about the Cormorant is the low capacitor. I did notice that the capacitor runtime is not that long, although it does have a decent shield boost per cycle, 2 seconds for the medium booster. It's oversized booster. It does follow the same idea that I used with the previous ships, and honestly kind of like the oversized build on the smaller ships. Does feel natural, but that means that I am not able to use the afterburner that often. If I had a medium Nosferatu, it would be a different story, but unfortunately you can't really fit a medium Nosferatu with this type of current setup that I have. So a small Nosferatu will have to do the job now. Usually the small Nosferatu is more than enough. It was enough on a Cruor, although the Cruor is obviously a Blood Raider and they do have a much better Nosferatu performance, so of course the capacitor will be much stable. But surprisingly, the shield is not taking too much damage. The shield booster can easily recover all the lost shield in a couple cycles, but the capacitor does have some, well, does take a while for the capacitor to recharge, but hopefully that's not going to be a big problem. Now, right away, when I'm actually, after recording both the kite and brawl build, the kite build is just much more natural because you don't have a problem with capacitor with the kite build. At least I did not have any problems. Wasn't really, didn't really change the rigs much, only the combat rigs will be different. But for the Cormorant, and I'm just saying this right away from experience, for the Cormorant a kite build seems to be the way to go. I mean, the ship does already have a bonus on long range, so might as well go with long range. Didn't really trust the ship's speed. It is not the fastest. Obviously it is not the fastest destroyer, but it is also not slow. It definitely does get the job done. And you can even improve the speed a lot more. I am not using auxiliary thrusters, and all of the rigs that I have installed can easily be tier 2 rigs. I mean, you have this build, and based on the performance that you see here, you can see if you can reduce the cost of the build. I usually say that there is always a room for cost reduction, and that basically means you can always reduce the modules that you see here. You don't have to use the exact same modules. The difference is really minimal. Really minimal difference between the performance. The only difference would be the DPS if you're changing the main guns, but it is honestly, on the grand scale of things, not much of a problem at all. Now, my capacitor was pretty empty. That's because I got neutralized. The ships do have neutralizers, and this is also one big advantage of the kite build. You do get, well, you don't get anything, but you are not going to be neutralized. Your capacitor is not going to be impacted by the neutralizers, so you don't have to worry about the ship's capacitor. You can also fit a capacitor battery, like I did. Now, at first I actually thought that the ships have 4 low slots. If they had a 4th low slot, I would definitely use a small capacitor battery. with this build would be really helpful to have a small capacity battery on the ship. It would help a lot with the shield booster, but unfortunately only 3 low slots at the moment. Maybe they will change these ships in the future, maybe they get more slots, who knows. As I like to say, anything is possible. Now, I will tell you one tactic that a lot of players are using. You can actually try to separate them, and this works much better with the long range build, but you can try to separate the elite ships first. Basically, try to kill them one by one and try to fight them one by one. Don't try to rush in all of the ships unless your tank can hold it. It's much safer to separate them and then kill them one by one, or you can separate them in smaller groups and basically eliminate the ships in such a way. And also that works really well. Works really well for a brawler as well as a sniper, but I would say it works much better for a sniper since you can shoot from a longer distance. And you will be surprised, but this ship can have some very nice range, despite being a destroyer only, and despite using small weapons, it still does have some very interesting range. So I was very surprised when I saw the range on this ship. Much better than I expected. The tank is holding, and the shield is also holding just fine. And at first this could potentially look scary, and honestly does look scary. But once you get used to it, it's honestly not a big deal. The best thing is that this is a relatively cheap ship. Much different from the usual builds that I do with all sorts of weird integrations. This integration costs at best about 100 million ISK. That, depending on the market, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but 100 million ISK is honestly not much. And you can get that much in less than a day if you do exploration nowadays. So a build like this is definitely affordable. And I do plan to do the same thing with a lot of different ships, because honestly at the moment Kalevala Expanse is ridiculously profitable. Now I know tomorrow, or well, today, depending on when this video is released, I know that they are going to release those Weight Seeker anomalies all over New Eden. And I'll say one very important thing, and I really hope that it works that way I imagine that it would, but I do recommend that you clear those anomalies in normal space, all those Weight Seeker anomalies. I do recommend that you clear them, and I do recommend that you loot them, because they will drop the same loot as the Kalevala Expanse anomalies, and the loot over here will be very expensive. Now, of course, the price will drop, and when the minerals become much more affordable, then the price will also drop. But once the event does go away, I recommend that you keep those minerals. Try to save them, try to save as many as you can, and then when the price goes up, you just sell them, and you can farm a lot of them. That's basically what I'm planning to do. That's basically what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to take out the Macarial, and I will be finding those Weight Seekers to clear them. It is profitable, it is very smart to do them, and they're also quite fun. I don't know how many times I've said this before, but Kalevala Expanse is honestly awesome. Not perfect, but it's awesome because you don't really need to fly a battleship in order to get a lot of ESC out of those systems. A smaller little boat like this can pull it off just fine, and it can definitely bring you a decent ESC haul. It's definitely much more fun than sitting in high-sec islands, or much more fun than eating a carrier in those anomalies in Nullsec, or a CN carrier.
Warning.
I honestly find these little boats much more enjoyable, and this game has been, when it comes to content, it was pretty decent so far. There are some things that I don't like. I mean, obviously, there will be always things that I don't like. I mean, it's a game, it cannot be perfect, but the new stuff that's been added's been pretty good. It is challenging, it can be difficult, but it's honestly not that difficult once you get used to it. It's honestly smooth sailing. Now, if you are worried about Asteros, or if you're worried about getting jumped, I wouldn't be worried. You can kill an Astero with a Cormorant Navy. I've seen it happen. I've seen Asteros being yeeted by Navy destroyers. They are more than capable of killing the small boats. And I would say that a kite Cormorant definitely feels more potent and more lethal. And I'm still more in the favor of a kite Cormorant for these anomalies. Maybe I would, in that build that you'll see, maybe I'll just replace one damage control for a different module, but that's about the only thing that I would be changing. I'll talk about more in depth when I go and play the Cormorant, the kite Cormorant. But yeah, that's probably one of the very few things that I would change on that ship. Well, the capacitor is recharging quite quickly, the ship is still alive, and well, still clearing does take some time, but honestly, it's always worth in the end. Now, let me see. Okay, I'm not that far off. I do plan to separate the last wave. Separating the last wave is definitely a important thing that I would say you should be doing from a tactical approach, just to be safe. And if there is a cloaky Astral lurking towards you, then they will get decloaked by those drones. And fun fact, if you do get jumped, those drones will just kill the tackle ship. They usually do that, they should close the ship. So yeah, you can use those drones against the pirates that's attacking you, and that can produce some hilarious kill mills, or lost mills for that matter. Okay, so let me pick I usually pick the fastest one. The fastest ones have scramblers and webs, and always try to kill them first. Especially if you're in a kite, if you're a long range build, try to kill the fastest ships first. And you need to move at least 2.2 km per second if you are a kite. Although if you have an afterburner, any speed is going to be decent, since afterburners are not being disabled by a scrambler, so you don't have to worry about that. At least with a close range brawler build, it's smooth sailing with an afterburner. 10 ships in the last wave. Okay, those two are... Okay, I'll just go and orbit the first one. Engaging the first drone. The ship's been holding really well. It actually held better than I expected. Initially I thought that it would get wrecked very quickly, but in the end it turns out it didn't really have a lot of tank problems. If only this ship had a 4th low slot. A capacitor battery would be so helpful, but I guess for now this will have to do. The only thing that's not up to my standards with this ship is the capacitor, basically. The capacitor, while it did not disappoint, it definitely went pretty low, was actually depleted a couple times from what I've seen here, so if there's one thing that I would say that needs improvement on this ship, is definitely the capacity, at least with this build. But for what it is, for how much it costs, I would say decent performance. Much better than what I anticipated. I honestly did anticipate this thing to get destroyed, but thankfully that didn't happen. Thankfully that did not happen. The only ship that kind of failed was the Kruger with the shield tank. Only the Kruger basically got the tank wrecked. But every other ship that I tried out here did end up being decent. I mean, did end up being fairly decent. And the thing that is kind of bugging me the most is the whole price of the ship. The rigs do cost, that in one integration does cost more than the ship itself. But honestly, in the end, if you can manage to make it work, it will pay for itself in maybe like an hour or so. You can get a lot of E-score here. And if there's anything that I actually like, is the fact that those minerals are still expensive. And I'll definitely take advantage of those minerals being available everywhere for a while, because I'll just loot up everything, keep that safe in Yita, and when the price is right, that's going to be sold. A little secret that I mean secret, it's not secret. I think anyone who plays the game would think the same basically. It's a opportunity to... It's a very good opportunity to get a lot of ISK. So I'll definitely be running that to see how much stuff I can get. But these are the last 5 ships here. Pretty good performance out of this ship. Again, only the capacitor is basically the thing that's annoying a little bit, but I actually thought about using dual small Nosferatus. It can make a build that does have dual small Nosferatus, and that would make the capacitor much more stable, of course, and it would recharge much faster. But in that case, a scrambler is kind of required for this space. It's technically null space, so you do want to have a scrambler in case you get attacked. In case you do get attacked, this scrambler will be useful. So this ship either is missing a low slot or a medium slot. One of these two definitely feels like it's missing, and I guess it's okay. I mean, you do have those assault destroyers. I'll also take a look at. The assault destroyers can theoretically fix that, because they do have a 4th low slot and 5 high slots. And there's also the sniper destroyers. They also have 4 low slots. So there's definitely ships to play and fly. And I will see what works and what doesn't work. So far, I mean, all the ships that I tried out did end up working just fine. Well, most. I mean, the Kruger pops in my mind, but that's just the Kruger. And so far, I am more than happy with the performance of the Cormorant Navy. This whole thing definitely pulls its own weight for how much it costs. Makes me wish that we had a different type of destroyer, a tactical destroyer. These ships are definitely somewhere planned, just not sure where. I know the topic of Titan, the Titan topic is quite popular at the moment, but I don't really think Titans will be released yet. I know we have received those Lancers, but I think they released the Lancers, and then the next thing that could potentially happen are some smaller ships again, but we will see. Someone mentioned faction super capitals, also a possibility, not gonna lie, that's also a possibility. But I mean, it is possible, but no clue about that as of now. Alright, and the last ship That's the third wave, and that's the last ship of the third wave. So that was the Cormorant Navy. A surprisingly interesting little boat. Works really well for this job. And next time, it will be released very soon after this video. I want to release those two videos side by side basically. So next time, or 5 minutes after this one, after this video is out, I'll be releasing the kite build. And again, I will just say right away, the kite build does feel better. I do like the kite build a lot more than the brawl build on the Cormorant. Maybe it's just because that the ship is meant to be used as a kite, but that's basically what I think about this ship. Does it work? Yes. Is it awesome? Yes. And am I happy with the Cormorant? Yes, I am. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, play safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.